It isn't easy knocking those Japs out of their positions. They're hidden in trees behind revetments.
It's April 1944. The world is burning. Cities fall, skies roar with the bombers, and the soldiers fight across the continents. But far away, hidden in the quiet hills of northeast India, lies a small town that has no idea a world war is unfolding. Yet in this forgotten corner, history took an unexpected turn. What happened here changed the course of the Second World War. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't march under any flag. But they know these hills like the lines on their palms. They are the Naga tribes of northeast India. The Nagas become the eyes, the carriers, the rescuers, and when needed, the silent warriors for the British. They fought not for an empire, but for their home, for the land beneath their feet. And this is the story of Kohima War. The Second World War was the deadliest conflict in the human history. With over 50 to 80 million people losing their lives, which contributed to about 3% of the world's population in 1940. It was a fierce quest for power, a battle between fascism and freedom. The Allied powers of United States, United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, with China and France, fought for freedom, democracy, and their vision of a just world. On the other side, the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan wanted expansion, ruling by race and empire. On September 27, 1940, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact, agreeing to divide the world. Germany wanted to control Europe and Russia, while Italy wanted to take over the Mediterranean and Africa, and Japan wanted to expand their empire throughout the Asia and Pacific. Meanwhile, the Allies aimed to save the world from the empires and fascist oppression. By 1944, the Axis powers were weakening, but in Asia Pacific, Japan seemed strong. Their next targets were India and China. In April 1944, the Japanese army, under Lieutenant General Renya Mutakushi, planned to invade India from northeast through Burma. Another Lieutenant General Kotoku Sato, who led the 31st Division, is tasked with attacking the British Indian Army at Kohima. The Japanese made two major mistakes. They assumed that Nagas would welcome them as liberators from the British, and their supply lines for food and ammunition were inadequate. These two mistakes has turned their fate. So the Japanese set up their base in Kigwema village, which is 16 kilometers from Kohima, under General Sato's command. I reached Kigwema, where I met a 102-year-old war veteran who saw the war firsthand, even supplying vegetables to Japanese in exchange of money. He lost his mother when bombs and gunfire struck the village. Through his memories, I traveled 80 years back in time.
Japan ko voi ti no ju cha ba ne.
Oh, bo ja mo. General Sato. Ko pile la ba wa.
General Chitana.
Japan wo.
It's a
vamos.
small town.
Nicolaka ba ke.
I
Shake.
used to stay here.
Ne ego kale thoa.
I used to work
Gada chara gada wo pe. Sana ba aku jogi to. Sa chipa po pele to. Kata ba pu.
I used to stay here.
Ya go wo pe.
And collect vegetables. Did you le no shi di ne?
Ko ta ta. Nan ti.
18. One day, yes, 18.
Ka ke
Did he hear any bomb sounds or guns, any bombs blasted in the air?
No, such a bomb, Kahigo, Pukushasi, Monash.
British government Japan toki bisa ba makibada tela lagi deh karena baca mangko tak kopi kira orang aku mana tu saya pernah tapi tu masih
His wife, Sana, they beat her and then with the gun, her wife also, with the pain, she died.
Japanese army. They like Japan. But the Naga people of Nagaland, they support the British, right? Did you ask that?
So British gone, Nagami gone, British go right, she could try.
doesn't Japan o April mo doesn't
They didn't go
Hmm.
They didn't go with them. They went with the British. Is any photo or anything from that day of this time?
No, so Tiri no, Venya, Tirim Hanya, Wobamima, Photobamima, she could try.
Second war saya misi kaki war British orang pelapida.
He bought one.
Wata kono maka yebo dah. Uso ko te o nyawa gata kono maka yebo. Bisa habate ne misi te hido kono ama pe kuba azoa zawa misi tato kono sita kono sare. Itu.
But when the British and Japanese clashed in Kohima, the Nagas, at first unaware of the global scale, choose to support the British over the Japanese. But why side with the British rather than the neighboring Asians?
Don't you see Japanese as the people who can separate you from the British oppression? But instead you went and supported the Britishers. You didn't see Japanese as the liberators.
That is not so easy to answer, of course. But when we talk of the impact of the coming of the American Baptist missionaries, it has brought a lot of impact, of course. And I don't know by then whether, as you said, like the Japanese will have, will separate the Nagas from the Britishers, whether our leaders are aware of that or not. That I cannot talk of it. But yes, the coming of the missionary activities, especially the American Baptist missionaries in 1870s, that has played a part of a mediator between the Britishers as well as the Nagas. And many of our Nagas also, our traditions, our cultures were, impact upon the coming of these American Baptist missionaries in 1870s. So the question that you ask about the Japanese to play a role of separating Nagas from the Britishers, I'm not sure. But yes, certainly the impact of the missionary activities has brought closer among the Nagas and the Britishers.
So one of the fundamental reasons that the Nagas choose to support the British over the Japanese is Christianity. In 1870s, the American Baptist missionaries spread their teachings in Nagaland. Over the time, they united the diverse tribes through faith, providing education, healthcare, and food. This forged a strong bond between the Nagas and British, because the Nagas thought the British were more familiar with the God they worship and the culture they accumulated through American Baptist missionaries. So this common point made the Nagas to support the British and help them by revealing the secret routes and providing ammunition and their support throughout the war. It all began on April 4th, 1944. The Japanese army entered the Kigwema village and moved uphill towards the Kohima ridge, where the war cemetery stands today. By the next day, the Japanese had completely surrounded the hill. About 1,500 British and Indian soldiers were trapped, facing nearly 50,000 Japanese troops. They fought just a few yards apart, sometimes from the opposite sides of the same garden wall. For 2 weeks, Kohima was under siege. There was no food, no water, and very little ammunition. Supplies were dropped by the air at night under heavy fire. But the Naga villagers, they quietly helped, guiding the British and Indian soldiers, carrying food and caring for the wounded, even as their homes burned in the battle. By the mid-April, the help finally arrived. The British reinforcements fought their way and began pushing the Japanese back. The battle raged for 2 months, and by 22nd June 1944, the Japanese army was exhausted, starving, wounded, and running out of supply. They had no choice but to retreat through the same mountains they came from. But General Mataguchi wanted the Japanese soldiers to fight until death. But General Sato, who has a secret indifferences with General Mataguchi, denied his orders, and he made the Japanese soldiers to retreat back. When the smoke cleared, the hills of Kohima were covered with scars of war. Thousands of soldiers, British, Indian, and Japanese, had fallen in the ridge. Today, the war cemetery stands on the same ground, quiet and peaceful, where once men fought hard hand to hand for every inch of the land. By 1945, Japan was losing ground everywhere. Their cities were bombed, their navy was destroyed, and finally, in August 1945, 2 bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Japan surrendered after. The World War II was over. A small town in the midst of hills fought for their homes and their name. And in that stand, on this ridge between the clouds and the blood, the world witnessed something rare, a courage, unrecorded but never forgotten grit of the Naga people.